ProRevenge. Hi, I'm new to YouTube and any advice on how to make my videos better would be greatly appreciated. Take all the credit for my work and tell the boss I'm a terrible employee. Well, it was because of me that you got fired. I used to work in a marketing role in a government department. I was part-time and worked along with a girl, who I'll call Karen, who was working on a yearly contract. She'd been there for 2 years and was very friendly with the department manager, and this was the reason her contract kept being renewed. When my manager went on maternity, Karen got temporarily promoted to the management role. This caused a lot of upset in the office as there were a number of more suitable and qualified people who didn't get the chance to act up. As soon as Karen became my manager, everything changed. My workload increased, and as I was part-time I had to absolutely bust my ass to meet project deadlines. All of a sudden I wasn't being included in staff briefs on new projects yet was expected to work on them. My department manager was acting really off with me too. This went on for months before I approached my department manager and asked to discuss my workload, etc. She sat me down and basically told me that I really needed to get my act together as Karen was having to pick up my workload and it was affecting her output because I was, in Karen's words, so lazy I should be fired. I told the manager what was going on and the actual work I was doing, but she took Karen's side and said I was just assisting with some parts of projects and it was ridiculous of me to claim I was managing and completing so many projects on my own. So I started making mistakes. Simple things, adding wrong briefs for designers, not including prices, adding incorrect budgets and deadlines that were 2 days out, etc. Karen started to get pulled by various managers asking why she was making so many mistakes. Then I knew for sure she was passing off my work as her own. She called me in for a meeting and exploded. I walked out. She had began bitching about me to teammates, saying how lazy I was, etc. My friends began to tell me what was going on. One friend informed me that Karen was online for on average 5 hours a day planning her upcoming wedding in Spain and was using the office phones to make international calls to the wedding planners. He could see her screen and could believe how lazy she was. So she was planning her wedding while I was busting my ass off. So I decided to skip talking to the managers and went straight to HR. I told them to have it monitor her internet usage and her outgoing calls. I said I could prove she was a lazy bee and was relying on me. I was obviously able to show email trails and the project documents I had completed, and she had then taken and saved down as her own. 2 weeks later, Karen was called to HR and told her contract was not being renewed and she was given 1 month's notice. She told everyone it was because of budget cuts. My department heads brought me in for meetings to apologize and commend me on my excellent work, and I got a promotion. I left a couple of months later. If they'd believed me in the first place, I wouldn't have endured so many months of stress and anxiety. Edit. Thank you for the gold and silver. I'm glad you liked my story so much you gilded me. Update. A lot of people are asking what Karen's motive was. I'm not 100% sure, but what I suspect is this. I was a permanent employee. She was contracted. She knew it was only a matter of time before her role was advertised as a permanent job. In the government, a lot of jobs would be advertised internally and some would be external. She couldn't apply for the internal jobs, and any of the few external roles that had come up she'd applied for and hadn't got. The role she had was generic and would have gone out in an internal trawl. I suspect she thought if I got fired or quit she could get my job, because of the type of role I held. It would have been advertised externally. She probably thought she could easily get my job. My manager was due back from maternity, so she knew in a few months she'd be back to her regular role and wouldn't have to worry about doing all the work I had been doing for her. That's the most rational explanation I have. How I got my bully arrested for a completely different thing. My story begins 5 or 6 years ago. I was coming home for school. I was 14-15 years old. My commute included catching a bus from its last stop. The last stop of the bus was like a cul-de-sac where the bus turned around, waited for 10-15 minutes before it would go, while the driver had a rest and the passengers got on. I got on the bus and stood in the middle. There were a lot of people already on it and all of the seats were taken. When I looked outside, I saw 3 boys, slightly older than me, sitting on a bench looking aggressively at me and talking. One of them was looking straight into my eyes. I will call him main aggressor, MA. I could tell they were talking about me and straight away knew they had bad intentions. This goes on for about a few minutes when the bus engine starts. Just before the doors closed and the bus set off, they got on. MA came right next to me and looked me right in the eyes about 2 inches away from me. I turned away and got to the front of the bus near the driver. Scared, I wanted to phone my father to wait for me at the bus stop, but my phone bill wasn't paid and my phone was useless. Just one stop before mine, they suddenly go off the bus and ran away looking back at me. A few weeks later, while going to school, I catch a different bus, which set off from the same place. As the bus set off, I saw the same 3 guys outside. MA notices me right away and yells to the others, "Hey, that's that guy." They started walking towards the bus, but it drove away. The third time I saw them was the scariest. It was like a year later. I was coming home on a Saturday evening on the first bus. The bus was almost empty and I was sitting in the back. I saw the same 3 guys getting on the bus from the front door. My blood ran cold. They hadn't noticed me yet and I immediately rang my mom and told her to wait for me at the bus stop. I was looking out the window, pretending to not see them. They were messing around at the front of the bus when MA noticed me. He smiled to the other 2 guys and walked up to me. Standing next to my seat, he started saying things like, "Nowhere to run now and I finally got you," while pushing me. I didn't say anything and pretended he wasn't there. Luckily, my stop was coming. As the bus stopped, I suddenly got up and ran to the door. He tried to grab me but failed. I ran out of the bus and got in my mom's car, which was already at the bus stop. I looked back and I saw all 3 of them getting off the bus and trying to chase the car. My district is small and I found MA on social media and knew who he was, a typical aggressive teenager wannabe gangster. Heard from a few friends that he was a well-known bully in our district. I was a very shy and timid person, so the experience stuck with me for quite a long time. For 1 or 2 years after that, I was afraid to go near that bus stop or walk alone in the dark. I would always look around in fear on buses or when walking on the street. The revenge part. Fast forward to a year and a half ago, 20-year-old me started a job at a construction company. I became a friend to most of the workers, including the foreman and the boss. They all liked me because I did my job well and was generally friendly. I was working hard because I needed money, which helped my progress in the company quickly. I sat at it as a construction worker, cleaning the construction site, carrying around materials, assisting form workers and rebar workers, etc. But about 6 months later, the foreman started giving me more complex tasks as well. About 2 months ago, we were removing form work with 2 of my colleagues when the foreman came with another guy and said, "This is our new guy. He will be working with you. Show him around and take care of him. It's his first job." When I looked at him, I was shocked. It was MA. Surprisingly, he didn't recognize me, probably because my appearance changed a lot since 5 years ago, but I hadn't forgotten his ugly face. Didn't give him any info about me that would make him remember. He wasn't into talking a lot anyways. I didn't tell anybody about him because I felt that was nobody else's business. At the moment, he didn't do anything wrong, but I just couldn't stand him and wanted to get rid of him ASAP. We have a storage at our construction site which held expensive tools and machines, drills, angle grinders, etc. One morning we came to find it broken into and there was missing equipment. There is one security guard, but his kiosk is on the other side of the construction site, next to the entrance, which was about 50 meters away, and his view to the storage is obstructed, so he didn't see anything. There was security camera footage, but it was low quality and the 2 guys visible were wearing dark hoodies. Police was called, but there was nothing they could do. The next day, I come home from work. One of my dad's buddies had stopped by to show him the new handheld circular saw he'd bought second hand for cheap. A bell immediately rang in my head. When I saw it, I instantly recognized it. I took a picture of it, saying that I was interested in buying a similar one. My dad's friend told me who he got it from, and after another check on social media, I found out it was MA's father. It all started coming together. I told my boss and foreman everything I knew and showed them the picture of the saw. My dad's friend also confirmed to my boss that MA is indeed the son of the guy he'd bought the saw from. Me and my boss went to the police and told them everything. The next morning there were two officers on the construction site. When MA showed up they arrested him. The sweetest part was me telling handcuffed MA nowhere to run now. He thought about it for a second and looked at me with wide open eyes. He suddenly remembered who I am. Anyway, under pressure he told the police everything. Turns out, his father persuaded him and one of his friends to steal the equipment. His father would then sell it and they would split the money. I don't know much about his father, but MA is held on multiple charges including theft and trespassing. The next morning there were two officers on the construction site. When MA showed up they arrested him. The sweetest part was me telling handcuffed MA nowhere to run now. He thought about it for a second and looked at me with wide open eyes. He suddenly remembered who I am. Anyway, under pressure he told the police everything. Turns out, his father persuaded him and one of his friends to steal the equipment. His father would then sell it and they would split the money. I don't know much about his father, but MA is held on multiple charges including theft and trespassing. I also heard from a friend that he's been arrested before for assault, but they let him go. This time he's not getting away. Sometimes I feel bad for him, but then I remember what an a-hole he was and still looked to be.